and the vestiges of it are still here. I would like to point out that in Birmingham, Alabama, when the first announcement was made to call upon blacks to stay out of downtown Birmingham, which meant a boycott of all the stores in Birmingham, though we did not use the word boycott, but that was, it began on April 2nd. By April 19th, the local newspaper, the Birmingham News, came out with a headline saying, "Don't blackjack Birmingham." So in 3 weeks, it was so effective that the newspaper had to come out against it. I've been trying to get that history because the police department kept all the histories of the movement, but that history that took place on the 2nd of April, that first announcement to stay out of downtown Birmingham, that one is not in the records.
Julian, today, 2010, and most of the southern states, 2011. I meant to say started in 2010. A lot of the individuals who call themselves head of the Tea Party, you hear some of the same code words, states' rights, taking back our country, some of the same tone that was used under the Confederacy. What were some of your impressions of the historical film that we watched? And as it relates to those who still today embrace Confederacy?
Well, see, one thing we have to be clear, that even though the date and the time has changed, the mindset is still the same. They're still operating from the same premise, and they still have the same doctrines, and they still want the same relationship between blacks and whites as they did then. One of the things that I found interesting is that they were talking about the Secretary of, at the time, the Secretary of War, or him being the Secretary of War, and what a great job he has done. And now it's been changed to now the Secretary of Defense. The position is still the same. They still operate from the same position. We have to be clear that even though the title of certain positions have changed, the desires are still the same. And if we look at history, there's really been nothing changed from the operation, the modus operandi of that position, and the mindset of a lot of these so-called Confederate states or Southern states. They're still operating from the same position.
Well, it's no question about it when we look at it. When you see the 150th anniversary of Jefferson Davis, Confederate President Jefferson Davis, you're looking at a situation that is as real today as it was 150 years ago. They call themselves now the Sons of Liberty and Tea Party and what have you, all sorts of names they call themselves, but they are no different than the Confederate generals who formed the Ku Klux Klan, who formed the White Citizens Council. So today they give themselves different names, but it's the same mindset of states' rights, that the federal government should not have the power to tell Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, etc., on how to conduct their power relationships as it relates to black folks. And you still see that today. So when you see Governor Perry in Texas, when you see what the governor in Mississippi and other ones, how they raise up, Jefferson Davis, Stonewall Jackson, and people like that, Robert E. Lee and others that you find, obviously Stone Mountain, when you see these personalities being lifted up, you should not be surprised because these are the people whose ideals that they base their lives on. So in that sense, Jefferson Davis is not dead, he's alive and well.
And fast forwarding today, issue number 2, Reverend Oliver, we'll go right to you. There's been a lot of claim, even though there's no basis whatsoever for it, that Barack Obama, our new president, first African-American president, questioned his citizenship. There's been proof even from the Republican governor at the time who claims that she seen his birth certificate. She came out and said that he was born in Hawaii. It's not even debatable. There's news articles announcing his birth which cannot be drafted. But we all know that that's, like Julian always say, smoke and mirrors. Reverend, basically saying that he was born in America. I'll put it that way. Reverend Oliver, you're going to talk about citizenship. So let me backtrack. Whether or not he's a citizen, this is an excellent point that Reverend Oliver wants to discuss. Why don't you share some of your opinions on that citizenship question?
Well, Donald Trump is promoting the issue of the non-citizenship Barack Obama because he claims that he was not born in the United States of America. It seems to me that if Barack Obama does have a birth certificate, he could show it. But that, to me, is not the real issue. The real issue that is that in the country that we live in, under the Constitution of 1787, there is no definition of citizen at all. So if there is no definition of a citizen at all in the Constitution, then there are no citizens in the United States of America. Now, the 14th Amendment, which says all persons born in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state in which they reside, that's supposed to apply to former slaves. But what about the white people who formed the country? There is no definition of their being citizens. There's no definition of a citizen. They simply left it out or overlooked it or are afraid to deal with it. So in reality, there are no constitutional citizens in these United States of America, and the problem of immigrations will never be solved until we define who citizens are. This country went to Iraq and created a constitution there for the Iraqi, but they defined citizenship. Mm-hmm. They defined citizenship. But this country never defined citizenship in 1787. In 1789, the French had their revolution and took 2 pages to define citizenship, but this country never did. So as far as the Constitution is concerned, there are no constitutional citizens in this country, either black or white or anything else.
Well, I'll just say, and to carry on Reverend Oliver's point, during the Radical Reconstruction period and the 14th Amendment came into existence, there are those who will argue that there was no real quorum. Consequently, it was never ratified. So to those who want to hang their hat on the fact that black folks are citizens based on their birth within the borders of America, it's not totally accurate because there was no real ratification of the 14th Amendment.
So Reverend Oliver, where do people get the idea or the notion that if you're born in this country, you're automatically a citizen?
I think that comes from England. Born in English territory means that you are subject of the English crown. That assumption has taken over in this country, but that is an assumed citizenship. It is not an openly stated and declared citizenship, but an assumed citizenship. I have asked this question to many white people. And I asked them, are you a citizen? They would say yes. I would ask them, based on what? They would say, well, I was born here. And then I would say, but that's not in the Constitution. And none of them have ever been able to come back and say anything about that.
Even though we're discussing the definition, the legal rights to being a citizen, I think part of the problem that we're really discussing is if President Barack Obama is a citizen in this United States. And unfortunately, the birthers, the Tea Party, and everyone else who's utilizing this as a platform to really remove him from his opportunity to being elected president again, or even just damage it or slight it, that's the problem. I don't think that we should have to allow that to be a platform or a talking point for them to decide whether we want him to be reelected as president. I think we have to be clear that the concerns are the issues that are affecting this country and how they're going to benefit us as African people. I think we cannot allow the sleight of hands to work in this particular case.
Well, I agree with Julian 100% because Joe Wilson, who's one of the members of the Sons of Liberty, you know, this is Confederacy Month, who's the congressman out of South Carolina, he's the one who called President Obama a liar during the joint session of Congress, right on the floor, which has never been done of note. So consequently, I would say that he does not view the president as the president of the United States, commander-in-chief of all armed forces, because he would never fix his mouth to call someone he respected as the president of America a liar on the, on the floor of Congress?